Hey guys, man, I haven't been around for a minute, right? Um, kind of wanted to talk to you guys today about a little bit about red pill and my thoughts on it now. You know, I know I've kind of changed. Well, I've always been an old school red pill guy, like 12 or 13 years ago. So, I've just always been that kind of guy. And basically what I think it is, it's basically shit your dad should have taught you. Um, just basics. The way I see red pill is there's a polarity in relationships, right? Um, Really, the red pill to me is seeing the world for what it is, number one, right? When I got red pilled, I started seeing the world for what it is. Like women, I started seeing them as, okay, you know, they they are about themselves. They are, for the most part. Now, okay, now I'm just saying now in the world we live in today, right? And I had a really big reality check on that. So women and friends are all about themselves. They can't see too far into the future. They're all about, scrolling and finding the next best thing. Trying to measure up, trying to be better than what they are, or tell a story of what they should be instead of what they really are. And I think that's where social media comes in, right? A lot of people are saying that, you know, oh, I do this or I do that, and they're not really fucking doing shit, you know? So it's a lot of bullshit out there, and nobody's being real with themselves anymore. So to me, red pill is being able to see all of that. The other thing too, so that's relationships, right? Seeing people for who they are, like Maya Angelou said, right? When somebody tells you who they are, believe them, that sort of thing. It's it's believing who they are, right? And paying attention to that kind of shit. The other thing too is what I've noticed is the corporate world. I was always that guy that was really, driven. I'm gonna go do become, vice president, CEO, blah blah blah, right? Do I think I have the skill set? Absolutely. But um do I want to? No. It's not something that I really wanted to do. I always thought that that was what I was supposed to do, you know. And I just I'm at the point in my life, I'm 50, I'm going to be 53 this year, and I'm at a point in my life where none of that shit matters anything to me. Really, what I want is to be happy, right? So when I got red pilled, I started seeing the code in the matrix saying, you know what, the corporate world is all about corporate shit, right? They're always about um rah rah rah, we're gonna do this, or rah rah rah, we're gonna do that. But to be quite honest with you, they don't have the fucking infrastructure to do a lot of that stuff, right? They want they want to ramp up, they want to sell so many units or whatever the case may be, but they don't have the manpower to be able to execute on that, right? Because the new people coming up, I'm an engineer, I'm an electrical engineer, and I'm a lead, and I manage quite a few people, and I've managed quite a few people, and these new individuals, they don't like to be managed. So, I saw the code in the matrix. I'm like, I don't really want to manage anybody anymore. I don't want to do that because it's a completely different mentality. And, these corporate really coddles these individuals. They screw up, and they reward they really reward mediocrity. Um, nobody really needs to excel anymore because you get moved up no matter what. That's what I found. So I'm like, why am I going to work harder than the next guy when nobody really gives a shit? You know what I mean? So I'm doing what I need to do. I'm just trying to find my place to just to be happy. That's really what I'm doing. Because I make good money. I enjoy what I do. So I'm really focused on that, right? And I'm putting my priorities and my efforts into other things that are going to make me happy. They're going to add to that happiness. Because ultimately, what's the goal? Is to be happy, right? And to be able to retire comfortable. So, so measuring dicks with other people and saying, oh, I'm a chief, or I'm this, or I'm that, I'm a CEO, I'm blah, blah, blah. Nobody really cares. You buy you buy a really nice car, people will come to your house and say, "Hey, that's a nice car," but that's it. Nobody really gives a shit. But what do you have? Like a $1,500 payment? Get the fuck out of here, man. None of that shit matters. You know, Rich is being rich in life, and I realize that. You know, Friendships. I only keep the people that are important to me as friends. And the people that put effort into me. I just got rid of a friend because he wasn't putting any effort into me, and I saw it. I saw it wholeheartedly, you know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, I'm out, Women, same thing, right? I'm not putting my efforts into anything. So that's really what I wanted to talk to you guys today about, right? Over the last, I think it's been 9 months since I've posted a video. I've done a lot of soul searching, and I really have been thinking a lot. I did a lot of dated, different women and that sort of thing, and nothing really panned out. Um, I broke up with two women in the August September timeframe, and they exhausted me. So one was a real estate agent, really cutie, really great personality, that sort of thing. We vibed, and it was great for the meantime, you know what I mean? But she wanted everything all at once, and I got to be a little bit more strategic about everything. She violated my boundaries, at the very beginning. When I first date somebody, I want, when I'm working, so I'm going to work. I bust my ass, Monday through Thursday, because I only work 4 10s. And then, Thursday, you know, I can, Thursday afternoon, Friday, whatever, I can do stuff. But she would call me, in the evening on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, you know what I mean, and violate those boundaries. She would overstay her welcome. She wanted me to, move in with her and sell my house and do some crazy shit, right? She was talking about all that stuff. I don't know if she necessarily wanted me to do it, but it was just too much. It was too much. And she got mad when I told her it was too much, and she just broke out, right? And she broke up with me in kind of a weird fashion. So I was just like, yeah, I probably dodged a bullet there. I dated another woman who was a yoga instructor, and she was great. We had fun. We dated for like almost a year. And she was going through a divorce. I kind of basically told her she was lagging on it, and I told her, I said, she had that serious, what are we kind of conversation, and I said, well, we're nothing. You're still married. If you want me to take you seriously, you need to go through your divorce. So she started going through the divorce, but then when I noticed when she was going through the divorce, she wanted to kind of explore, a little bit. And I knew that, right? So I told her, I said, you know what? Why don't you go out, figure it out, go out and date, go out and have your fun, whatever the case may be. And then, if things change and you change your mind, you can come see me. Well, she came to see me. She wanted to see me, right? So she came to me, and so we started hanging out again. We didn't talk for a couple months, and she came back to see me. So we were having a good time. So I went to a buddy of mine's, a party or whatever, and she was still out there like a butterfly doing her thing, right? And I was like, oh, well, I called her on it. I said, hey, there's some level of respect you got to show me if we're gonna go to this thing together. You know what I mean? I don't need you out there, flirting with other dudes or whatever. You know what I mean? That's just disrespectful. And she checked, she changed her mind on it and that sort of thing. And she said, I won't do that again or whatever. But then I went to her birthday party and oh, she was even worse. She had told me about all of her friends at work, all of her, her kids and that sort of thing, because she had two kids. And you think she introduced me to any of them? She pulled me into a bathroom and she told me, she goes, how do I look? You know what I mean? And she was a good looking woman, you know what I mean? But she wanted that attention. And I've been through this enough, it's not my first rodeo, so I've been through it enough to know that she was kind of going through, she wanted the attention of other men, and she was really in search of that, but she wanted to have me as a backup, and I'm just not that guy. So I stopped talking to her altogether, man. I just ghosted her, and I was just like, I didn't even explain nothing. That's it. Fuck. I blocked her from my phone, and that's it. You know what I mean? So after that, that shit exhausted me, man. It was fucking exhausting to me. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stop dating for a while. I'm good. And then I was coming up to a vacation or during December. I was on vacation for almost a month, a little under a month, maybe 3.5 weeks or something like that. And I said, you know what? I'm the common denominator here. I think all these negative things are happening to me because I'm not doing it right, right? I'm just dating, 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 and I'm not getting anything out of it. You know what I mean? So I said, I'm going to start dating with intention, and I'm going to get closer to God, right? So I'm Catholic, you know what I mean? And I grew up in the Catholic church. My mom used to take me to church when I was a kid. I almost became an altar boy, but thank God I didn't, you know what I mean? Because the Catholic church has a bad rep with that, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. So I I said I'm gonna start dating with intention, and I'm gonna do the right things, right? Like if I'm not interested in somebody, I'm gonna be honest with them and just let them get out of my life, let them move on to somebody else, you know what I mean? That's gonna be probably better suited for them. So I started doing that, and almost right when I made that fucking decision, a friend of mine at the gym came to me and she said, Rich, Rich, Rich. And I had been talking to her for a couple months and she got to know me. So she's like, you're such a great guy. I got to find somebody for you, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I said, yeah, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? I was just like, I was cool being by myself. I'm good. It was just me and Einstein, my dog, and I'm happy. You know what I mean? Well, she came to me and she's like, I got somebody for you to meet. I said, okay, yeah, okay, whatever. And apparently she went to the woman and said the same thing. She's like, okay, give her my phone number, blah, blah, blah. So I texted her. And originally I was gonna have just a telephone call with her, right? But then I changed my mind and I said, you know what, let's just meet at a local bar around here and let's just talk. Real quick meeting or whatever. And I was dressed like this, and it was December, you know what I mean? But, I live in Arizona, so, the weather's nice up until a point, then it starts getting cold, right? So I went with a t-shirt, a nice t-shirt, not a Nike t-shirt or whatever, but I went with a nice t-shirt. I was dressed pretty nice, casual, and I met her, right? And I was like, I was dreading it. I didn't really want to do it. And I said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to go in with this mindset. I'm just going to go make her laugh and just have fun with it. Fuck it. Whatever the outcome is, whatever the outcome. Well, make a long story short, I ended up there for 3 hours. Luckily I had taken a jacket with me and I got to utilize the jacket, but I planned it out. I sat by some ambiance. We sat by, fire, that sort of thing. So it was pretty warm. She had dressed warm, so I wanted to keep her warm. Just thoughtfulness, right? I mean, just basics. Um, we had a great time. I walked her to her car, I kissed her, and I was like, okay, I want to see her again, right? So I set up the date. I, I I didn't text. I didn't do anything. I texted her that week, and I said, "Hey, I'd like to take you out again. Let's meet here." And I had it planned out, right? Exactly. I had worked with the staff at the restaurant, and then I took her to a speakeasy, and I had it all planned out 100%. So then we went on a date, and after that date, she was going to go on a vacation for a couple weeks. And I was like, "Ooh, I got to make this one memorable, right?" And I did. I did. We went to the restaurant. We sat by, I sat by a window so that we could see the ambiance. It was just a really great setting. Um, you know, we, I went to a restaurant that had, a good, a good amount of food, right? Different types of food, just in case she had any allergies or anything like that. I always kind of think about that kind of stuff. And sure enough, she was able to eat what she needed to, and because she does have allergies. And then we went to a speakeasy after that, and I planned it all the way down to where we sat. Well, like, I don't kiss and tell, but like, we ended up making out a little bit, you know what I mean? And it was a, it was a really great experience, but I also asked her a lot of questions. I would ask her questions about who she is because I really wanted to get to know her. This was the first woman in a long time that I wanted to really get to know her and what made her tick. So I made it memorable that night. It was a great experience. I texted her, the next day, "Hey, I had a great time. Hope you have a great trip." That sort of thing, because she was leaving the next day. Well, we talked when she was on her vacation. We talked twice, so once every week, right? The first time was 2 hours. The next time was 4 hours. I don't usually like to talk on the phone, but it was like a date. You know what I mean? I got to know her. I had questions ready. I would ask her questions, find out a little bit more about her family, her background. You know what I mean? Was she close to her dad? Did she have daddy issues? You know what I mean? Like, kind of vetting her, right? And kind of understanding her a little bit more. And then when she got back, we had two more dates, and now we're together. Um, I got, she said, we said the I love yous after 6 weeks. So I did, according to Corey Wayne, I did everything right. And now we're together. Um, and the thing is that I had no expectations going in. Every single date, I really had no expectations. I just wanted to hang out, have fun, and hook up. You know what I mean? And that was my only job. That was it. To this day, that's my only job with her, right? I mean, we're together, we're in a relationship. Um, but really, every time we're together, I just want her to have fun and enjoy herself. You know what I mean? And I want to get to know her. I want to get to know what makes her tick. I want to understand her moods. I want to understand things about her so I can pay attention, you know what I mean? And be cognizant of it you know, um, so that her experience with me is a memorable one and she wants to come back every time. And every single date I had I planned, I would work with the waiter staff to get the right table, get the right ambiance. I would have questions ready to get to know her. And she loved that. I mean, she loved it, man. She loved it. Even to this day, she tells me I just have so much fun with you. And I'm very, I'm very spontaneous. Um, we'll be hanging out, and she was hanging out here last weekend, and I said, "Hey, you want to go have a margarita? Let's go have a margarita." And we went to a local bar around here, you know what I mean, that had great margaritas. And we just enjoyed the ambiance. We sat outside. It was a beautiful day. I wanted to enjoy the day. I took her out to hit golf balls. Never really she hit golf balls before. She went to Top Golf, right? But she never really enjoyed it. And I spent a lot of time with her, and I got her to actually hit the ball where it went up, right? And I was so excited for her. I was her cheerleader, I was making her laugh and joking around. And people started like coming around and saying, "Oh my God, should you really have that much fun at the golf course?" That sort of thing. And she just like I made every experience a memorable one, right? And what she tells me to this day is that she goes, I really want to capture every moment with you. I want to remember every minute with you. Even sitting in my living room watching a movie, she lays her head on my lap and I rub her hair, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And she just says, I don't know how to explain it. I just love being with you. We meal prep together. We do all that kind of stuff. We had a date where we made a pizza. So she's got allergies to a lot of things, right? So I said, okay, why don't we make a pizza? And you tell me what you can eat and what you can't. And we make a pizza out of what you can eat. And she said, hey, that sounds fun. Dude, it was a blast. We had fun. We had a little bit to drink, and we just we just had a blast. It was fun. We put on music, we danced in the kitchen. You know what I mean? And I've planned every single moment like that. I want her to enjoy herself. She's going to go with me this weekend to go play golf. I'm going to play 9 holes and she wants to play. And she may not play the whole 9 holes, but I'm going to make it fun for her, you know? Where you put out, I go out on the golf course, I listen to music, I just have fun and just enjoy it. You know what I mean? So, do things like that, especially if you find a woman, you know, here's a takeaway from this video. Figure out who you are, who you want to be, and become that person, right? You know, like I think a lot of like LL Cool J, Joe Manganiello, I resemble him, to some degree. I mean, it's a good looking cat, right? So I think uh, I'm probably not on his level, but I'm trying. You know what I mean? I'm getting there, right? But LL Cool J was always my man, right? You know what I mean? Like he was a dude. He always fit the bill. He was always in great shape. You know what I mean? And he was no matter what, right? Like I saw him on videos where he was like somebody challenged him and he doesn't turn down a fucking challenge. You know what I mean? He's a fucking dude's dude, even with his wife. And I really like that, and that's what I was talking about. What I would do is look at Corey Wayne, look at his videos. Number two is read Way of the Superior Man. And those two books, man, that should be your Bible, right? Because the Way of the Superior Man is not misogynistic. It's nothing like that. It just talks about the polarity in a relationship, right? The man needs to do the man shit, take care of business, do the right thing, kind of like Rip and Tommy in Yellowstone and Landman, like that. You know what I mean? There's one episode where Tommy he lost his job and his wife called him up and said, hey, you didn't tell me you lost your job. He goes, just be aware, I don't talk about that kind of stuff, I just take care of business. And sure enough, he created a business, you know what I mean? And they started making money with it. So that's what a guy does. A guy suffers in silence while taking care of fucking business. You don't cry in your beer. You know what I mean? You just make shit happen. And and when you do that and a woman is in your presence, you stand up for yourself and the woman, with no violence. I don't believe in that either. But just if she knows that you can take care of business, and you don't apologize for who you are, then she's going to respect you. And that's when she's going to follow your lead. She's going to trust your masculine core, like Corey Wayne talks about. And that's what you have to do. Like last night, I'm terrified of being in a fucking relationship. I'm terrified of it, right? Because I was in a marriage. Um, well, I was almost married. I didn't get married, but I was living with her, and it didn't work out. And she pulled out the rug from under me. She was drinking. She was an alcoholic, and I think she had some shit on the side. To be quite honest with you, I hate to say it, but I don't know. I just have a feeling, and I know her well enough to know that she had backup plans too, kind of like me. And I can't fault her for it. She thought she was going to lose me, so she had some shit backed up. It's no big deal. I will never say anything negative about her. It just is what it is, right? But it almost literally killed me. If it wasn't for my dog, Einstein, I don't know if I'd be around talking to you guys right now. Um, so it terrifies me to get into a relationship, to put all my eggs in one basket, and just say, well, I'm gonna I'm gonna love this person the rest of my life. That just never really registered for me after that, right? But then I find this woman, and last night I had a conversation with her. I had to tell her, man, I am who I am. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna apologize for it. I'm fucked up. I have a lot of anxiety. I'm scared to death about getting into a relationship and the person not loving me the way I deserve to be loved. So that's the way I feel. If you can't deal with that, then here's your out. And she told me straight out, I'm not going anywhere. I love you. I'm in love with you. I'm head over heels for you. And I'm not going anywhere, you know? And she said it with conviction, you know what I mean? And there's been things, I always pay attention to somebody's actions. And her actions have always been congruent with what she's saying. She doesn't fuck around. She's not the kind of person that's going to blow smoke up my ass. She's just not that kind of person. You know what I mean? So you got to pay attention to the person's character and what she does rather than what she says. Because a lot of times they're going to tell you what they want you to hear instead of you know, instead of what they mean. You know what I mean? So you got to be real careful with that. And this woman, after I made that decision, man, she just popped into my life, and it was almost like God sent her for me. And it's just amazing what has been taking place. I'm taking it slow, I'm taking it calculated, and she knows that, and she's okay with it. She stays here quite a bit, which is okay with me. But I'm not. She's not taking anything lightly. She's very serious about what she does with me and how she feels about me. And I appreciate that, because it's either shit or get off the pot with me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm ready to be with somebody, to spend time with somebody, I can't promise marriage. I can't promise moving in. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. But I'm open to it. I'm open to it as long as I'm covered on the back end, prenup, postnup, that sort of thing. Because that's just protecting yourself against the state. You know what I mean? So you got to just be careful with that, protecting your assets, that sort of thing. And you got to make sure she's true, 100%. So really the takeaway from this video, guys, is, I learned a lot in the last 9 months dating and figuring out about that, because when I was with that last woman, it was a long time ago, and the dating landscape has changed, and I had to learn it to be able to come back on here to YouTube and teach you guys about that, right? But I think if you come into a situation with a clean heart, you have some sort of religion in your life or some sort of spirituality, and you come in with good intentions, always be honest with everybody, do the right thing, walk in the path of Jesus. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a religious freak, I'm not toting, any of that kind of stuff, but do the right thing. Just be a good human. That's it. Just do the right things, and you're gonna find you're gonna get a lot out of that. All this shit that the red pill, talks about, it's toxic. It's just toxic, man. I'm tired of all these phrases, toxic masculinity and all this bullshit. No, it's just be a good fucking human and be the right human and stick to your guns. Have boundaries. Don't let anybody violate those boundaries, and just be who you are. Own who you are. If you're bald, shave your head. Fucking own it. If you're skinny, lift some weights. Own it. you know um People make fun of you for who you are. Don't give a fuck. Be indifferent. Who cares? you know um just own who you are. Be who you are. Do the right things. Walk in the path of a good human, and write down what you want in life. Because when I bought a Jeep, there was Jeeps everywhere. You know what I mean? So I wrote down a list of the person that I wanted. I put the top 10 non-negotiables, and then the like a pros and cons list. And I really focused in on those. And this woman that I'm dating now, wow, she's all that and then some. You know what I mean? And she's more than I could really ever ask for. It's early on. We've only been dating for almost 3 months. But I think at this point, I know what I need to know, because she's simple, you know, and she's old school like me. So pay attention to that, you know, pay attention to who you want to be, become who you want to be, and do the right things and date with intention. And I think you'll find the right path. So I hope that helped you guys. It's just something that I've just really been kind of thinking about, and something that I've learned over the last 9 months or whatever time I've been off of YouTube. But I really just wanted to share that with you, share my thoughts on it. And, I hope you get a lot out of this video, because I've gotten a lot out of the last 9 months. So, hey, reach out if you want to talk to me. I'm more than happy to help out any way I can. This is my legacy. This is all I got. I didn't have kids. So you guys are my family. I really appreciate it, guys. You guys have a great day. I love y'all. Later.